Hey, and welcome back to another episode of Rennch. In today's show, there's not really much going on. Okay, that was a bit of a turbo tease. Both turbos are in. I'm super excited about it. I'm actually not doing anything with them in this particular episode. I have a whole bunch of projects that are in like a weird state because everything is interconnected on this build. And it's like I can't do one thing unless I get the other thing done, and I can't do the one thing. So I have a ton of parts coming in right now. So I'm going to have a bunch of really rad videos in the next upcoming weeks, from flare installs to the twin turbo to a brand new sponsor I'd love to tell you guys about when it comes in for the radiators, for the coolers. So super excited about that, and some potential SEMA 2021 news. What I want to do today is work on the axles, and what I need to do is really finalize where the transmission is going to be placed. The problem is the little mock-up axles that I got from TRE Motorsports are a little long. I mean, these things were like on a shelf, and they just said, here, take them and use them to mock up if you want. So I have like 4 Porsche axles, and they're just a teeny bit too long, so I can't really place them where I need to. Here's what we're gonna do today. I'm going to cut these axles in half. I am then going to mount them on their respective sides. Then I have a tube here, a little pipe that I'm going to use as an outer sleeve. I just happen to have the right size pipe, but I'm going to cut little sleeves, like maybe 6 inches long, and I'm going to put them over these axles. I'm going to set the axles up to where they need to be lengthwise. Then I'm going to weld them so that I have the correct size axles. Does that make sense? That way I'll have a pretty good idea of the exact size I need to order for, is everyone just taking off right now? Is everyone, you waited all day, and then the second that I start recording, I get 19 planes, I get a cop. Can you all just give me a couple minutes? Thank you. Okay. Anyway, as I was saying, I'm going to cut little 6-inch sleeves, put them over this thing, grind this thing off, and then weld them together. So I'm going to have kind of a cobbled together axle, but it should be pretty close to the right length I'm going to need to order when it comes time to do custom axles. These, by the way, would probably work fine in a pinch, but you wouldn't want to take them on the highway. Anyway, that's the plan for the day. I'm going to start by cutting these axles, cutting these pipes out, and then getting under the car. Always fun to film under the car. And seeing how this thing lines up, putting the transmission right where it needs to be, getting the axles aligned the way they need to be, and finalizing the placement of all this stuff. Okay, good news. If you are ever worried about your axles snapping, don't. They are really, really, really strong. Okay, here's where we are. I've got axle halves. They're still very hot. And I have my outer sleeve. Fits perfectly over the axle. And I'm going to bolt these things onto each side of the transmission and to my hubs. Slide this little bad boy over. I'm actually probably, sadly, going to have to cut another chunk out of these axles. Maybe I should do that now. Anyway, I'm gonna have to cut like a few millimeters off of this so that I can slide this thing on and have enough room to go back and forth. So maybe I'll do that off camera really quick. But then I'm gonna bolt them on and slide these things over and position the transmission so that it's where it needs to be, where the axles are lined up, and it's not too much angle. So these things were no joke to cut. They are really, really hot still. All right, so as you can see, I've got the axle here, and then I've got the sleeve over the top. And I'm gonna do the same thing for the other side, put it on, get this thing situated where it needs to be. One thing I'm really thankful about is how much space I have here now. I had like 0 space when the spring was on the bottom side. If you guys remember, I reversed the springs so they're on top now and basically flipped the shocks upside down. But now this thing looks great. I think I probably need to put it under load, so I might put rest the car down a little bit and see if I can get it flat on some boxes or something. But otherwise, this thing looks really good. I'm really psyched about how this turned out. Ultimately, I will get it situated correctly, measure these two distances so they're equal on each axle, and then I'm going to just tack these things together with a couple of welds just to keep my mock-up axles. Okay, each axle is in now, and in an exciting development, they are both roughly 220 millimeters from here to here. I'm going to try to get them as exact as I can. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that, but I'm going to try to get them as exact as I can, and then put a couple of tack welds on each spot and just lock them in. Looks nice with some axles on there, doesn't it? Okay, with the aid of this magic device, 215 millimeters is my perfect axle size, I think, or at least as far as I'm measuring this way. I don't know what the full length of them is, but from flange to flange, it's about 215 millimeters. So I'm gonna weld them up right now and at least put a little tack on. Now you definitely would not want to drive on these axles. They are not going to be plumb and true. In fact, you'd probably be like this if you tried, but they will serve as good placeholders and good measurements for when I have to have custom axles made. I can also use these to check if Porsche has already made axles that are roughly this length. If so, I'm up easy. I'll just order them and we'll be good to go, but otherwise I'll just use them as placeholders. One thing I do want to show you guys is I went to Harbor Freight and I bought this light bulb. So this is like a really, really bright LED headlamp. And this has been so huge to help me with my welding. Certainly you don't want it on flasher, but to be able to see in there, especially if it's like a dark space, has been really, really cool. This was a cool little hack. I just stuck it on with some double-sided tape. You could do it with Velcro or whatever, but it's made a huge difference for me. Who knew? My spool of welding wire ran out and this became empty, but I have this big giant one that I got from Harbor Freight. So I've rigged up a little sort of feed where I've got this thing on a little shaft. I put this thing on a drill with a bolt and I've just been feeding the wire like that to refill my welding wire. All right, axles are cleaned, painted, marked, 215 millimeters, and that is from here to here. So when I need to get them made, I have a reference to use. I'm gonna pull out my aluminum tubes. Aluminum tubes. that are currently being sort of mocked up for my cooling system right now, just because they prevent the movement of the transmission a little bit. And I'm going to pull those out and then, again, really see if I can get positioning. What I will say, though, is that there's a chance that 3 times the charm and the hard aluminum tubing will be replaced with soft AN16 piping. So I don't know yet, but let's pull them out, get these things bolted on, and really start focusing on positioning the transmission to where it really needs to go. Check that out, boys. Look at that, it's an axle. Doing axle things. And the alignment's good, straight on. I think I have the engine and transmission where I really need it. Here it is again. Look at that, doing axle things. So now these are perfect. Well, I mean, they're not perfect, but they are sized where I can order replacements that'll be like the actual correct axles. So it's super exciting. Okay, it's the next day, and last night we got a little bit distracted. Mike Brewer came over with a little bit of whiskey. We hung out in the garage with a buddy, and it really went late, and we drank a lot. So it was a little bit delayed. Today it's the next day. I'm about ready to watch my Steelers play the Cleveland Browns. And I keep getting distracted because all of this cool stuff that I've ordered keeps coming in. You saw the turbos at the beginning of the video. These just came in. These are front turbo flares that I'm running on the rear. Can you even see this? Can you see? I'll put a picture up, but like, come on now. It's all just really cool, super fun stuff. So I keep getting distracted and like, ooh, I wonder what this will look like. Anyway, the next video, actually, let's go back to this. So I got what I needed from these axles. I think they're precisely sized now. I spent a lot of time, hopefully, correctly orienting and positioning the motor. So I hope it's where it's going to be. I'm still waiting for the adapter plate, so I don't have the ability to put my motor mounts in yet. But hopefully it is where it's going to be. I think the next video, I'm going to start playing with some turbo placement, which will be super exciting if I don't succumb to flares. But that's going to be some of the next videos that come up. Anyway, it's about to get real. We're kind of slogging through some of the harder bodywork stuff, and then it's just going to get super cool. Anyway, I hope you guys are subscribed. Hit me in the comments for any comments, suggestions, criticisms you want, and I will be talking to you next time. Go Steelers.